that sound.
Hey, Jimmy. Hi. Nice to meet you all. Good evening, everybody. I am thrilled to welcome you to Hope Hill Elementary School, home of the Eagles, where we are so proud to host this exciting event today. Thank you all for being here. Now to Dr. Grant.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Howard Grant. I'm the Executive Director of the Atlanta Board of Education. Today, we are here to introduce new leadership to Atlanta Public Schools. In a moment, the Search Committee Chair, Ann Kramer, will come up and discuss the selection process. Following Ms. Kramer, Board Chair Courtney English will introduce our superintendent candidate. Our candidate will then address the media. After remarks from the candidate, we'll open the floor for questions for the candidate, the board chair, Mr. English, and the search committee chair, Ms. Ann Kramer. We will then conclude the press conference and provide information about the candidate's schedule to meet with our parents. Ann Kramer is a retired director for IBM Corporate Citizenship and Corporate Affairs. Ann has a rich history of supporting education through volunteerism, board service, and advocacy. She has served as the chair of the Georgia Partnership for Excellence in Education, the Carter Center Board of Counselors, Communities and Schools of Georgia, the Georgia Chamber Education Committee, Voices for Georgia's Children, and Georgia Shakespeare Festival. She currently sits on the board of the Community Foundation for Greater Atlanta, the Metropolitan Atlanta Chamber Education Committee, the Governor's Office of Workforce Development, and the Georgia Public Education Foundation. And she has done a remarkable job leading the search committee. And now, I'd like to introduce and welcome our search committee chair, Ms. Ann Kramer.
Thank you, Howard. And I hope you all can just sense the energy in this room, the excitement, the anticipation, and the extraordinary pride with which we are here. Let me just give you a few little wonderful facts. First, we had an amazing search committee. The search committee was made up of parents, educators, representatives from our community groups, civic leaders, business leaders, higher education folks, and they have stayed the course, been a part of every process, participated in every meeting, stuck with us long term, and absolutely determined to bring the best leader for our children in the city of Atlanta. So first, if you will join me in acknowledging the extraordinary work of our search committee, and we have two of our members here, Abby Martin and Rita Simmons, the educator, and our board members that were a part of it. And if you'll recall, the search was started with the previous board, and gratefully, we were asked to continue the work, and we were able to have the new board members. So if all the board members who participated, give us a high five. Yes. But the most important part of that was that as we worked through the process, the board was an integral part of that search, as well as the community. So if you'll recall, we had community meetings, we had surveys, we talked with you, we talked with others about what it is that we were looking for. And in order to bring that best person to our community, we had an extraordinary search team. And I say that because it was two terrific firms. Diversified Search, represented by Veronica Biggins, who's an extraordinary leader in Atlanta, but has international credentials, and our very own Sam Petway with Boardwalk Consulting, who has a tradition of working in our community and knows it really well, but also has national international credentials. Sam Petway. So from the beginning, you, the community, parents, teachers, all the folks within the community who care deeply about the success of our children, determined what our profile would be. And when we looked at it, we think, oh my gracious, no one will ever meet this criteria because we put that bar up. Someone who had success in complex systems, who understood urban situations, especially those children who are the least of these, is able then to work with community and collaboration, knows what it means as a successful leader. And when we checked the boxes, we literally looked all over this country. We had people from the military, business, folks in academia, folks in organizations, urban superintendents, sitting and past. And the important part, and I want you all to know this, that we had never just receiving applications over the transom, people sending in their applications. We went out and found the best, the absolute best. And the affirming part for you, for me, in our city was so many talented people who met all those criteria wanted to be in our district. They wanted to be with our children. They wanted to make a difference. But we were able, through that process, which was wonderful, it was rigorous, it was thorough, it was complete, it was wonderful. Working with the board, working with the search committee and the search firm, and listening with you, we are thrilled that we are able to be here today. And so, in order to present the, quote, results of our search, we have our very favorite board chair. Where is he? Our very favorite board chair. And it is an honor for me to present to you Courtney English, who's the current board chair. And we had the privilege of working with Courtney on the previous search committee. And we're thrilled when he was selected as the board chair. And he has brought wisdom. He's brought a national understanding of the issues in our community and ways that what and who we need to address them. But even more importantly, he has created a collaborative culture among our 9 board members that I know will sustain us well and work extraordinarily beneficially on all of our behalf with our new superintendent. So Courtney, I extend my deep gratitude to you and thank you for your leadership.
First and foremost, I want to thank Ann for that wonderful introduction. I want to thank her for her continued and courageous leadership. Ann is quote-unquote retired, but literally pours herself into every task that she undertakes, loves this city like no person I've ever seen. And so this city really owes her a debt of gratitude a number of times over. So I want to thank you for your continued sacrifice. She says she's not done yet. I believe it. I believe it. I believe it. I do want to thank my outstanding colleagues. We have the best, the brightest school board in the country. The city of Atlanta, yes, thank you. The city of Atlanta rose up and really, through the process of an election, selected 8, 9 incredible individuals to serve our children. This board is completely comprised of 2 individuals, 2 types of individuals. Everyone on this board is either a parent or a teacher. I'll say that again. Everyone on this board is either a parent or a teacher. Everyone on this board is either a parent or a teacher. And that says a lot. Those are the folks who are ultimately the end users of the decisions that we make. You know, we got to get this thing right by the folks who are ultimately standing in front of the classroom. So standing in front of our children in front of the classroom. So I want to recognize Ms. Leslie Grant from Educational District 1. I want to recognize Mr. Byron Amos, Educational District 2, but he chooses to be first. I want to recognize Mr. Matt Westmoreland from Educational District 3. Want to recognize Nancy Meister, Board Vice Chair from Educational District 4. Mr. Stephen Lee from Educational District 5. Ms. Ishay Collins from Educational District 6, Cynthia Briscoe Brown at large, seat 8, and Mr. Jason Estevez at large, seat 9. These folks are absolutely remarkable, and they will light their hair on fire to do what's right for kids, and I think that's really, really important considering where we've been as a city. I do want to extend a warm thanks to the search committee. I see Abby and Rita here. Please, can you guys step out front for 2 seconds? Yeah. Abby is one of our. Abby steps up time and time again in any way that we ask. She's the parent. She's the president of one of our parent groups here, and stepped up again to help with this search process. Miss Rita Simmons, who is our district-wide Teacher of the Year. We thank you both for your service. I want to thank my colleagues, my friends and colleagues of the past board. They are the individuals who started this process. They are the individuals who brought us people like Ann Kramer, who brought us people like Abby Martin, who brought us people like Sam Petway and Veronica Biggins to help lead this search. So I do want to give kudos to them and thank them for their public service. Lastly, but definitely not least, I want to thank our current superintendent, Mr. Errol Davis. It takes a special kind of leader, a special kind of person to run into a burning building. I'll say that again. It takes a special kind of person to run into the burning building. And regardless of some of the more controversial decisions, Errol Davis stepped up and ran into the burning building and pulled our children out of that burning building. And for that service, he deserves a thank you and a round of applause. You know, I am one of the few folks, well, actually, there are a couple of us, one of the few folks left in Atlanta actually born and raised in the city of Atlanta. I look at my good friend Byron Amos, who's a graduate of APS, Matt Westmoreland, who's also a graduate of APS, and all these folks, of course, have deep roots in the Atlanta community. But Atlanta's a special place. I'll say that again, Atlanta is a special place. Atlanta has a history of teaching the world how to deal with the biggest challenges we face. You know, Atlanta has a history of coming together to get things right. When Atlanta makes a decision to get it right, we become a city too busy to hate and rise above hatred, of bigotry, and segregation. When Atlanta gets it right, we decide to build the world's busiest airport in the midst of a national recession. When Atlanta decides to get it right, we land the 1996, the 100th Olympiad over Athens, Greece. When Atlanta gets it right, we solve problems like crumbling infrastructure and sewer systems. We solve problems like underfunded pensions in a way in which no other city in America has done. Education is another opportunity for Atlanta to teach the world how to get it right. We've come through a troublesome period, but I am proud to say that this board, this city, has decided to get it right for our children. We have decided to get it right for our children. Without further ado, I am proud to announce our sole finalist for the superintendency in the Atlanta Public Schools, Dr. Maria Kostarfin. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you so much for coming out at what feels like the last minute to be part of this incredibly special moment for not only Atlanta, but for me. I'm so honored and, quite frankly, unbelievably humbled by Atlanta's belief, at least from your school board elected leadership and the search committee, to believe that I have the skills and the experience to help Atlanta do what I know is the vision and the hopes for this city. I know there's a lot of history, some good, some not so good, but there's something that I've learned having grown up in the Deep South. I'm originally from Selma, Alabama. I was born and raised there, graduated from public schools. My parents still live there. I go back all the time, and I fly through the Atlanta airport. And one of the things about that's pretty special is that Atlanta was always a city when we were kids that we looked up to. This was where you came for school trips, and you wanted to spend time learning about Atlanta and being part of what was special about the gateway to the South. And I think that it's kind of time that after working all over this great country of ours and spending a lot of time trying to learn and also be part of the reform and the improvement of American public education, that I come home. And I think that if my parents had a vote, I would have been here some years ago. But those are my roots, and my passion about public education is has a lot to do with my experience in Selma and our special connection between Selma and Atlanta. It's a place that shared, the same or similar civil rights history. We share a lot of the same figures that are important to us and our background. And as an African American, I have to tell you that it makes me especially proud that the city of Atlanta believes that a young African American woman could be here and be part of this extraordinary, I guess, belief that we are going to do this thing together. So. As I look at my track record, and I know that they were scouring all the details too, I do think that having the leadership skills that I have around improving graduation rates, making sure that we reduce the dropout rates, addressing the over-identification and disproportionate placement of African American boys and special education students into disciplinary programs or special education in general, are things that I feel like I've done and been able to show evidence that we can put some of those systems in place here in Atlanta and help in areas where things have been greatly troubled academically for students. I know that y'all are getting the wiggles right now, and you're being so patient and understanding, but I want to speak to you for just a second. Jimmy, where are you? Did he already leave? No? Are you still awake? No? Okay. Well, I just wanted to say that the large part of the reason that I'm here is because of you. I've studied you. I've looked up everything about you. I've tried to learn about you, even though I don't know all of your names. I'm going to work very hard to do that. And I want you to know that while I may be considered the superintendent of the district, there's really only one boss in my life, and most of you are sitting on the floor right now. So I work for kids. I answer to you. Yeah, you keep clapping. Yeah, I work for you, and just know every day that I go to bed, I will be making my decisions thinking about you to ensure that I do the right thing by you every single day. So I really appreciate that. The last piece, or as I wrap up, I just want people to know that there's a lot around human capital and making sure that we retain and recruit the best people to come to Atlanta Public Schools and be part of this team and to stay with the team. So there'll be a lot of work that I do with the adults in the system, teachers and administrators, parents and community members that want to be part of this experience. And what we'll have to do as a community as we work to try to rebuild trust, not only between the system and the community, but also between ourselves and the children, adults and children. And that is going to take a lot of heavy lifting. I wasn't kidding when I said I'm humbled, but it is a lot of work that when it's done well and when it's done right, it can move not only a school system forward, but also we will be able to do our part to contribute to what makes Atlanta such a special city. It is a great city, and it deserves a great school system, and our families deserve a great choice in Atlanta Public Schools. And I want you to know, starting not just today, but many moons ago when we first started having these conversations, that I was feeling myself getting committed then, but I'm absolutely committed now to ensure that I do my part to help set all of this in a better place so that you have the outcomes that you hope and dream about. So thank you so much for having me today, and I look forward to getting to know people tomorrow and over the weekend, and I'll be coming back as often as possible in advance of the board vote. So thank you so much, and I appreciate it.
And on behalf of the Atlanta Public Schools staff, we would love to welcome you, and we look forward to this journey.
Thank you.
We have a special presentation.
Oh, thank you.
After school class say, a token of our love, and thank you for coming.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you.
And now we'll take some questions from our audience and from our media. Rose.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, bye. You all right, buddy? Right.
I just think everyone, I speak for a lot of people, our hearts go out to Atlanta. I think there are many people who are cheering for you, will be cheering for us, and just hope that we'll put the kinds of systems in place to ensure that that never happens again. It's really important in our business, especially large urban districts, that there are accountability and compliance functions in place so that you can monitor these things all, throughout every cycle of testing, or any other policy or procedure the board may have that's important for people to know that they don't have to worry about what may or may not happen. So, what I anticipate being able to do, and something that I've actually done myself, I was the Chief Accountability Officer in Washington, D.C. I served in similar roles in other districts. And so putting those systems in place are second nature to me. And I learned a lot being in Austin. Austin was also a district almost 15 or 17 years ago that was involved in a cheating scandal. And as a result, they put those kinds of mechanisms in place. And since I've been there, we've made them even stronger. So I think it was an emotional time for the country. It was a very sobering moment for all of us as we reflected on our own practices and behaviors, and asked ourselves tough questions about what we were doing in our own systems. And so it's never easy to say that or to really understand it unless you live through it. But I think at least for me, being from the South and being a huge fan of Atlanta, that it was a very sad moment in time, but something that I think Atlanta can come out of.
And despite all that, you still wanted to comment.
Well.
Something that makes you hesitate.
Oh, it's all it's all something to take in. There are many things that go into your decision making, but I think most importantly, you look at things on paper, you look at what's happened and what's been said, but I got to meet the board. I called some of my friends that I went to high school with that live here now. I have relatives that live here and had lots to say, and for me, it's just one of those things where you look at where people are at this moment, and you have to make a judgment call on whether or not you too have faith, and I do have a lot of faith that many things can come together, the stars can align for Atlanta, and things can get back on track. And while I can't control what happened in the past, I do know that with my leadership, I can control a lot of things as we move forward. And the board was, inspiring. I mean, they have a great passion for seeing this work out, and I believe them that they will support a new superintendent and that they will support the children of Atlanta. And if you have those two things, I think a lot can get done. My contract has actually been renewed twice, and my contract goes actually for another year, so I don't think your information is correct. That's okay. Oh, not knowing who the other candidates were, I just think I know myself. I actually spent a lot of time, participating with my own team about strengths. I think there are a couple of qualities that stand out about me. I'm very deliberative and thoughtful about my decision making. I am a pretty self-assured person because I do a lot of background work before I make recommendations and decisions. I'm very passionate about education and spend a lot of time not just getting excited about it, but figuring out those research-based best practices and things that are appropriate for programs and for children. I'm also a great team builder. I think I have probably the best team in the country right now, and I believe that can be built again. No one has the market on great teams. But I think those were the kind of qualities and things that we talked about that certainly, I think, made me stand out. Well, I talked about it. I think, right away, this issue around accountability and compliance is essential, and that has to be done. There are vacancies in the leadership ranks right in schools. So getting in front of and recruiting right now for the best principals possible would be a number one priority to get ready for the next school year. I know that there'll be a lot around data analysis and some other things, but I think another important piece is to really get out and meet people, get to know the staff, and I'm sure that they will relay things to me that might adjust my priorities. But we have a pension issue too. I think there's some budget and finance management issues that are going to surface very quickly. All these things will be vying for the number one position of my attention. No, there's a lot enrolling. I've done these before, and there's so many details. This is, while we're here in Atlanta, there's another community that I love that I've been part of for 5 years. I have, friends and family there too. And it takes a lot to step through everything and be as respectful to that community as we're trying to be to Atlanta. So we apologize for the delay, but I just thought it was important to make a couple of calls. Yes.
Do you know personally about you?
Yeah. So I'm Maria. I'm 44 years old. I like long walks on the beach. And okay. So so I am married. I'm like I said, I have parents. I wasn't hatched, and they still live in Selma. I have 3 sisters who I love and adore. One graduated from the University of Georgia, so we used to come over here and spend youth time together. Let's see. So I love art. I am an avid documentary photographer. The Lyndhurst Foundation, I think it's connected to Coca-Cola. I think they had the patent on the Coca-Cola bottle, but many, many moons ago when I was a teacher, they funded me as a Southern community partner and really helped me develop that part of my passion around documentary research, art and photography, which led to a lot of great work with National Geographic magazine and mentoring under the great giant John Floyd Jr. at Southern Living. And so there's just like a whole part of me that wants your job. I love journalism. I love research. I love publishing. And so that's another passion of mine that I haven't quite been able to separate from what I do day to day. Yes, I do. It's all about, relationships and, and getting to know each other. So I can't wait to ask you that question, but you don't have to tell me your age.
Mark?
I'm already hearing reports and old articles about how you were a fan of Beverly Falls in the past before the chicken scandal, and that you were working for Michelle Reed in Washington, D.C. Can you explain how you feel about those former superintendents who you once
Well, there's a lot of misinformation apparently out there. We're on a couple now, even in this room. But I never worked for Michelle Rhee, so, but I did work in Washington, D.C. My superintendent was Cliff Janey. And way back in the day then, I was a finalist for the superintendency there. So that was, hopefully, I was hoping that was going to be my first big superintendency. That just tells you how intense I am about this work. So no, I never worked with her, and so I can't really comment on what it was like to work with her. And I think that there were, I'm the next generation of superintendents. There are very few of us actually kind of going into the business. And so when I started at Harvard, there were, all the urban superintendents would come in and meet with students in the doctoral program and talk about their work. So I have a lot of respect for anyone who goes into this job. Now, I don't control, and I didn't know, like everybody else, you know, how people make their decisions, what they decide to do. You know, that's between them and something greater than me. But I have to say, you know, right or wrong, you know, at the time when I was learning about superintendency, there were many people that were kind of the giants in the business that had been around for a while. And, you know, we did get to know them and spend time with them. Oh, yes, and others, you know, Cliff Janey and Rosa Smith and Barbara Bird Bennett, and I mean, they're a bunch. They're all retiring now, but there were many.
Right, so did your thoughts on her change when you heard about the shooting in Atlanta, or how do you feel tonight?
Well, I mean, like I said, you know, I'm as sad as everyone else that this is, you know, where Atlanta is. You know, I wasn't here. I don't know, and I'm certainly not the prosecutor in the case, and I don't have any of those details. But it's my hope that all of it gets sorted out and that Atlanta is interested and willing to move forward. I don't think it'll help any of us to, at least for the new step forward, to spend a lot of time thinking about the past. It's going to be very important that we learn from it and put measures in place to move things forward. And it's my hope that I'll be able to do that.
During your tenure in Washington, I'm interested in knowing what were your major objectives and ultimately how did you advance educational outcomes for that district? How do you see that translating into what you hope to do next?
Well, I mean, in the work of a superintendent, I always say, you know, my job is to, you know, deliver on the will of the board. The board is elected by the people, and it's part of the democratic process. So what we try to do is hear what the people are saying through their elected officials, and then my job is to try to shape that in something where you can work with and through all those other people to make that vision come alive. So, you know, our district in Austin was assessed by the Broad Institute and a bunch of other people. They always come in and study our work. And there are a couple of things that they found that we were exemplary in. One is, you know, strategic planning, and another is around, you know, quality management of budget and operations, making sure resources are going to support children and things of that sort. So, you know, what I see right now is that the vision piece, you know, setting very clear objectives about where we want to be in a certain time frame, articulating those measurable outcomes, making sure that everyone is clear about the path we want to move forward on, that we get board action on those things and start putting it in place. I mean, that's how I feel like I get my work done. You know, I can implement anything. That's why I feel like I've had to do that. I can implement anything. Be careful what you ask for, because it will be done. And so it's important that when we send the administration out on a charge, that it is really the right direction. And so I will try to advise and inform and educate the board about those things, and they will be educating me too, and then we'll shape that into the steps required to get it done. But I think like I have a standard approach to those things, and it has worked well for getting outcomes in other urban districts. Right. So this is a question that we've discussed before, and the important thing in a community and equity, and I've experienced this so many times, is that it has to, if it is important, you have to sit down and define what equity means for this community, right? And everybody has a different definition. If I asked everybody to write down their definition right now, if I were a teacher, I would be doing that right now. But write it down, and I bet you would get multiple different shades of answers. So what the first step is to bring the board together to talk about it from a policy position. What is your governance direction to me about what equity means for Atlanta? And then from there, it will, it spills out into different directions. Like we want to ensure, one definition of equity that I've heard many times is those who need it the most get the most. Or those in highest need get the most. It's one of, it's that kind of concept, and others have very different ideas. So defining it and making sure that we're in agreement about what that is, what it tastes like, feels like, smells like, then we can go and address those issues. But until that's done, most of the time you just end up all murky and frustrated. So I would be encouraging the board to develop its policy, to talk about what that looks like, so we could map out administrative procedures and how we want to think about implementing the right steps for the community. But it is a very difficult question. I haven't seen a district in the country that's really sorted that out at a level where everyone seems happy.
Well, first of all, I think it's. I'm sorry. Let me just,
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I think it's critically important to this process that we have a mayor who's on fire for education. And so Mayor Kasim Reed has been vocal and has been a huge supporter of this district moving forward. And so I'm glad to have that kind of excitement coming out of City Hall. Not just him, the City Council President, as well as all members of the City Council, have pledged their support to make this thing work for our children. And I think that's what's most important. So we're not yet at a position where we're really ready to get into the weeds of what salary is. We have an agreement in principle. And so in the next coming days, we plan on fleshing that out. We have an agreement in principle, and in the next couple of days, we look forward to fleshing that out.
We'll take one more question, and then we'll wrap this up.
Oh, our superintendent will be here pending. Again, in the next couple of days, we'll flesh those details out, but we are looking at a 3-year contract.
Well,
In the next couple of days, we will flesh that out.
all right, we want to thank you all for coming this afternoon. I think this has been a fabulous day. It's a new beginning for the city of Atlanta, and we're all very enthused to move forward. And again, we welcome you to Atlanta.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. All right. Just tell us what you want us to do.
Every single day, when they get on the school bus, when they're walking home. You are responsible for their most precious asset. And so it's a job I take very seriously. It is certainly has elevated itself in its intensity in the Atlanta context, but it's something that I believe it must be done. Our country is built, the cornerstone of our democracy is built on the concept of public education, and without it, I think it shows. I think the failure of urban education in the past, and we've certainly improved in recent years, but that failure has really worn on our country. everyone who comes to the United States, born or new, should have an opportunity to have a quality education, because that quality education is really the thing that ensures they have choices in life. And so without those choices, they don't have a future, and that's what we have to do for Atlanta.
How do you earn parents' trust?
Yeah, so, I think what part of the trust conversation has to be is that people have to tell me what they need to have happen to know that, to educate me about what they need to develop trust. So there are things, there's some basic components of psychology around trust, like, speak truth, be accessible, don't, be yourself, and always, do your homework and be respectful. And I don't think that anybody gets that right at every step of the way, but I think that there are going to be other things that the Atlanta community will want to see, both qualitatively and quantitatively, that will make them believe that we're making some steps toward building trust again in the district. And they'll have to, share that with me, and I know that'll be a tough process, but it'll be part of the healing.
Great, thank you.
Is it Maria? Is that how you
Yeah, it's Maria, but it's M-E-R-I-A.
Right. I just wanted to make sure.
Star
Finn.
Okay. Por supuesto.
Yo soy americano, pero
That's a good way to.
Okay, estudié en España, en Sevilla. Yeah.
mucho gusto. Un placer.
Igualmente.
Bienvenido.
Gracias.
It's gonna go to
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming out.